Hi and welcome to Fashionable Flavours. I'm your host, model John Zheng, and today I'm bringing you a special sweet treat all the way from New York. So today I'll be making my take on New York baked cheesecake. So throughout the episodes, I've been showing you how to make very healthy, tasty recipes. However, this episode I wanted to do something a bit fun, a bit naughty, and as you can see, New York is probably one of my favorite destinations to travel because of the food, the fashion, and the shopping. So today I'm going to be bringing you my version of baked New York cheesecake. So let's start off by introducing you to what you need to make this wonderful cheesecake recipe. So for the base, we have digestive biscuits. And what you have to do is you have to finely crush these biscuits to make the base of the cheesecake. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And I've added a bit of desiccated coconut into this because I think the coconut adds a bit more taste, and I like to always add my own fashionable flair to all my recipes. As well as melted butter. You've got 100 grams of melted butter, which will form part of the bread based mixture. And you've got 100 grams of sugar, caster sugar, white caster sugar, vanilla essence, a teaspoon. You have 2 tablespoons of flour, and the soft cream cheese. I like to use Philadelphia, but you can use any type of soft cheese. You want 300 grams of soft cheese and 200 grams of sour cream. I like to add sour cream. Some people add normal cream, so whatever your preference is, but I like to use 200 grams of sour cream. And also you can add an egg to the recipe. However, this time I'm gonna stay clear of the eggs because the eggs have a lot of cholesterol in the yolks, but generally a baked cheesecake does have 1 or 2 eggs put in the mixture, but I'm going to do without it this time. So we've already got enough calories in this dessert. And to top it off, I love raspberries. Raspberries just give it a lovely taste because the raspberries are quite acidic and the cheesecake's quite sweet, so they complement each other. However, another topping you can use is probably passion fruit, mangoes. You know, it's up to you what you want to use. Also, you will need a cheesecake or a spring form tin, which basically just the bottom just pops off just like that. As you can see, you want to use one of these tins because it'll be easier to get the cheesecake out of the tin once it's baked. So my version is a mini style cheesecake. Generally, I like to use the smaller pan because it cooks shorter and it looks a lot cuter when you're serving it up. You'll also need 1 very large mixing bowl and of course the good old blender, or if you're feeling like you want a bit of a hand workout to get those guns pumping, you could probably just use a normal stirrer, whisk, whatever you like. So let's get cracking. First of all, let's start off with making the biscuit crumb base. So over Christmas, someone gave me this mortar and pestle. I've used it for another episode, but you know, I thought why not give the arms a workout. So generally what I did to make this, I just got the biscuit and just pound away. So you want the biscuits to resemble a fine breadcrumb. So just keep doing this. It might take a bit of time, but I mean, you know what? Cooking's all about having fun, right? Okay. So as you can see, the breadcrumbs, they look like breadcrumbs. They're been finely crushed in the mortar and pestle. And another easier trick you could either put them in a food processor, you could wrap them in a plastic bag and then bash away with a rolling pin. But you know, I like to do things differently. So there's never one method of doing a particular thing. So I always like to experiment. and whatever you find is easiest or most rewarding. I like to just take my anger out on these biscuits in the mortar and pestle. So who said you can only use a mortar and pestle to mash up spices? So pour that in, and we'll do one more. So you can use any style of biscuits. So last time I made one, I used Oreo biscuits. So just bash away. So I think once in a while, having dessert is not that bad for you. As they say, everything in moderation and balance. So I wouldn't eat this cake on a regular basis because I wouldn't be the size I am. But I mean, you know, if you're having a dinner party or it's someone's birthday, it's always a nice gesture to make a cake. So why not make a cheesecake? The beauty about this cheesecake is it's not too overly sweet. So you can also add some lemon zest if you like your cheesecake a bit zingy. So I love cheesecake. I don't have a massive sweet tooth, but cheesecakes have always been my favorite because I love cheese, and they're sweet but they're not too sweet, but you don't want to eat too much because they're very high in fat. So as you can see, the biscuit crumb has been done. Right. So moving on. So now that we've got this lovely breadcrumb mixture, so all it is crushed up biscuits, and I've also added a bit of desiccated coconut into this. Right. So then what you want to do is you want to melt the butter and just pour the butter into the breadcrumb mixture. So you can either use a fork to mix it, but I just like to use my hands. Make sure your hands are clean before you do this. I mean, it's just common sense, right? So now we've got the tin. We just want to mix the butter and the breadcrumbs together. It's almost like making an apple crumble. So I enjoy this. It's like playing in sand, really. So just mix the butter in. There you go. So once it resembles a crumbly mixture, all you want to do is you want to put just enough to form the bottom of the tin. So some people like to make the base all around the side, but for today's purpose, I'm just going to do the base. So using your fingers, you just want to press down onto the cake tin. So you want to make sure that the biscuit mixture is pushed nicely and flat on the bottom of this pan. Right. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Don't be afraid to use your fingers to press down the breadcrumb. So you want a nice, flat, even surface. Okay. So this is looking marvelous. I mean, I'm not a big baker, but if I'm going to bake anything, I'd prefer to make a New York baked cheesecake. But I mean, it's your own preference, right? Okay, so once you've pressed the breadcrumbs nicely into the bottom of the pan, as you can see, we're then going to turn the oven to 160 degrees Celsius, and we want to let that bake for 10 minutes until the base is nice and golden brown. So let's walk over to the oven and I'll pop this in. So we just want to turn it to 160. Okay, so we want to pop this into the oven. Okay, so now that we've made our bread base mixture for our cheesecake, while that's baking, you can always start on the filling. So in a large mixing bowl, what we want to do first is we have the cream cheese. So just pour that in, and the caster sugar. So as I was saying before, if you don't want it too sweet, just add less sugar. So for this particular recipe, I'm adding in about, let's say half of the sugar because I'm watching my calorie intake. So we'll just put that aside. And what you want to do is, with the blender, you want to mix this till the sugar is well combined with this soft cream cheese. I normally like to put it on a 0 from 1 to 2 setting. So it's going to be a bit noisy, but here we go. Right. Okay, just give that a good tap. Right, so now you can see that the sugar has been whisked into the soft cream cheese. So that's looking absolutely fantastic. This recipe is so easy, so don't be afraid to make your own cheesecake. And trust me, it'll be worth it. So what we want to do now is we want to add in the vanilla essence. So we have 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. Just pour that in like that. Vanilla essence is a vanilla bean extract, which is being taken from the vanilla bean pod. So, I mean, if you want to be extra fancy, you could actually buy a whole vanilla bean and then scrape out the vanilla from inside the paste. That will give a much stronger taste. But I mean, if you don't have time, like me, I'm a busy person. I'm always modeling and traveling. So what you want to do is you can just buy the vanilla essence from the shop. It's a lot easier. So my recipes are all about being quick and easy to make. So you, the viewers at home, can make these without fail. Trust me. Okay, enough talking. Let's get back to the recipe. So what we want to do is we want to blend in. So we have some flour, just normal plain flour. Please do not use self-raising flour. If you use self-raising flour, it's going to turn into a sponge cake, and we do not want that to happen. So you want to put in 1 to 2 tablespoons of plain flour into this mixture. So just pour it in like that. I actually like to add a little bit at a time, so then you can make sure it doesn't go too gluggy. So I'm just going to put half of that plain flour in, and as well as the sour cream. So we can add the whole sour cream in. Just dump it in, give it a tap. Right. So just put that in. All right, so now back to our blender. We want to blend this for a couple of minutes till it's all well combined. Okay, sorry about all the noise. So, I mean, as I don't cook a lot of sweet things, I would like to hear from you, the viewers, on maybe what you'd like me to make next. I always love challenging myself, so baking's probably not my strongest point, but I do make a mean cheesecake, and this is why I'm showing you my recipe on how I make an easy, fail-proof baked cheesecake. Right, so as you can see, the mixture now is looking, it looks pretty pale. So we just want to add a little bit more flour. Just putting that in. Okay, I think that's more than enough. If you add too much flour, it's going to be too cake-like, and I think a good cheesecake, you don't want it to be, you want it to be dense, but you don't want it to be too spongy either. So mind the noise. So we're just going to blend that through. Okay, right. So that's looking almost ready. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna find a spatula and I'll be right back. Right, so now the mixture is looking nice and creamy. What I like to do is I just like to scrape down the sides of the bowl, and this cheese mixture is looking very nice and delicious. So at this stage, you can either add some lemon zest into it if you want a bit of extra zing, but I'm just gonna leave it plain for today. So the breadcrumb base mixture has been baking in the oven for 10 minutes. So what you wanna do is you wanna let that cool for another 10 minutes, but in the TV world, we don't have time to wait. So here's one that I prepared earlier that I'm gonna grab out of the oven. Okay, so as you can see, you now have the breadcrumb mixture. So what we want to do is we want to just pour the cream cheese filling over the top of the breadcrumb mixture now. Right. So you don't want to waste any of this mixture. Scrape it all in. So these mini cheesecakes are perfect for if you're having a small dinner party, maybe a romantic dinner with your loved one, or it's your first date. This is sure to impress. So, right, now we've got the mixture into the cake tin. We just want to spread the mixture out evenly, right to the sides. It doesn't have to be too perfect. I mean, I always like a rustic looking dish because then you know it's homemade. So what we want to do is we just want to take that down to the sides, and you just want to use the end of a flat spoon, a spatula is fine, whatever you can find in your kitchen, and you just want to smooth the cake mixture so it's nice and flat and even. Okay. So if you want to write to me, I'd love to hear what your favorite dessert is, and I'd love a challenge to make something that you viewers have requested. So here we have it. Okay. Right. So now we have our mixture. It's all been spread out evenly. I'll teach you another little trick. To get out the air bubbles, you can just give it a slight tap around the edges. This will just remove any air bubbles from the surface. So that way, when your cake cooks, it will look nice and even with no air bubbles. So just tap around the side. Okay, right. So this is looking pretty good. Okay, so this is ready to put in the oven. So I generally turn the oven down to 150 degrees Celsius, and a cake of this size will probably take not more than 15-20 minutes, but remember, if you're using a bigger cake tin, it will probably take about 40 minutes. So I'm gonna go pop this in the oven, and I'll come right back to teach you another tip on how to make the perfect cheesecake. Okay, so now that's in the oven cooking away. Another little trick when you're making a baked cheesecake, once it's finished cooking, you can always test it out. So by just touching the cake, if it pops up a bit, you don't want the cheesecake to be overcooked, because once it's finished, you put it in the fridge to cool. So that will also help set the cheesecake. And another trick someone taught me is when you're making a cheesecake, to ensure it doesn't crack while baking in the oven, you turn the heat off and just open the oven door just a slight bit and let it rest in there till it completely cools. And I can guarantee you, you'll have a crack-free cheesecake. So let's watch the clock. I would always recommend putting a timer, because the last thing you want is to burn the cheesecake after all that hard effort that you've put into it. I mean, if all else fails and it burns, just go down to your local baker and grab one and just tell everyone you made it right. So, okay, so While that's cooking, as I said before, you can put different toppings on. My favorite is raspberries because they're acidic. They're kind of sour, so the sour note really contrasts the sweet. And in cooking, they always say contrasting flavors are always great because they counteract each other. So why not experiment with a bit of passion fruit pulp over the top? You can also have it with some whipped cream. So whatever you fancy, don't be afraid to experiment. So this particular mixture can be used to make any style of cheesecake as well. This is just a very basic New York cheesecake. I've seen different versions, different recipes, online, on TV shows. So people like to use Oreos. They can use, berries. You can mix the berries inside. So as I said, it's completely endless on how you want to make your New York cheesecake. Surprise! So here's one that I made earlier. As you probably know, most cooking shows, we don't have a lot of time to wait around for things to bake. So I made this one the night before. So what you want to do is, once the cheesecake's baked, you want to let it cool. And I like to put it in the fridge overnight. If you have time, if you don't, put it in the fridge for a couple of hours. Just let the cheesecake flatten down and set. So as you can see, this is my New York baked cheesecake. Not bad for an amateur, right? So what I like to do is, I like to put raspberries on top. This just adds a lovely presentation. So depending on how much you like raspberries, you can put the whole top full of raspberries. I just like to give that rustic look. So just pile the raspberries up. Just like that. So, I think this is a pretty good effort for someone that doesn't like baking. So there you have it, my New York baked cheesecake with raspberries. You can put whatever toppings you like. And this is sure to please any of your guests. So I'm going to actually cut this open to show you what it looks like inside. So let me go grab a knife. Right, so now is the big reveal. So we've baked our cheesecake for about 20 to 25 minutes. We've let it rest in the oven for another half an hour till the cake cools. Then we've let the cake, put it in the fridge for maybe 4 to 5 hours. If you have time, make it the night before. So this is one that I prepared earlier. As you can see, I've garnished it with raspberries. It looks rustic, but it looks delicious. So let's cut it open and see what it looks like inside. Right. So the benefit of putting it in the fridge overnight is you're guaranteed when you pop that tin open that the cake will not crack. Okay. There you have it. As you can see, my delicious baked New York cheesecake, fail-proof. Here you go. For the viewers, if you could try this right now, guaranteed you will never go back to buying your own cheesecake. So here you have it, my baked New York cheesecake. So give this a go at home and guarantee everyone will think you're the best cook in the world. So thank you for watching Fashionable Flavours. Thank you for watching my episode so far. And make sure you make this wonderful baked cheesecake at home. And as I was saying, TV99, please follow us on the social media websites, YouTube, Instagram, and also the TV99 channel if you have Sky Cable. So until next time, I'm your host, model John Zheng. If you'd like to follow me on my personal Instagram page, it's johnzheng_model, JOHNZHENG_model. And I also have a Facebook page. So bon appetit. Till next time, bye.